Okay. Okay, let me start off by saying this, that there's been a lot of things circulating around, and a lot of things that were reported that some of them are accurate naturally and some of them aren't. But today I hope we'll be able to answer any questions that you may want to ask, and we'll answer them just as I've done in every time that I've ever answered a question. That's as honestly as I know how to answer it. Now, the primary subject is the flood relief, the flood victims, and any and all things that are related to rise or the flood. Now, let me take you back and make it just as simple could be from my standpoint. I really take massive offense to anyone that would think in any way that I have not tried with all in me at all times to help any of the flood victims anywhere at any time. Through my governorship, through my pre-governorship, you know, the brass tacks facts are just this. I've never been through anything in my life that was as bad as that. I would ask you, any of you, to ask yourselves, what did I do to help the flood victims? Well, I know what I did. You know, I waded the mud, and I helped clean the houses, and I delivered the meals, and I hunted for bodies. And not only that, I didn't lose a loved one or didn't lose my possessions from my personal possessions, but my business was just completely washed away. And to this day, I'm battling a battle with the insurance companies because I had the best insurance in the world, $600 million worth of coverage. I've turned in $107 million worth of claims, and they've paid 37. And it's a battle. It's a battle that shouldn't be there, but it's the way of the world. It's the way of the world, and all of us know it from the insurance companies. It's just the way of the world. They don't pay the claims, and they put them off as long as they possibly can, and as long as they can ride them, they make money riding them. The Greenbrier has not received a dime from the insurance companies now going on 17 months. And from the Greenbrier, it's made a tremendous burden on the Greenbrier. But that still pales to the moments after the flood. Yet family upon family lose loved ones. 20-some people lost their lives. We hunted little Michaela Phillips for 6 weeks. Day after day after day, I drove to the Greenbrier to do everything I could possibly do and prayed over and over and over that some way, somehow, I could see that little girl. And some way just take my jacket, because we knew we were going to find her covered under a bunch of sediment or garbage, and just take my jacket and put it over and wait on somebody to come and help. The family needed closure. 6 weeks, a little 14-year-old girl. I'm telling you, in amidst all that, what did I do? I opened the doors of the Greenbrier to everybody, anybody and everybody, to just try to help. And if that same guy that would do all of that, if he had any inclination in the world that somebody, their monies was being held up or whatever, how could anybody question what that guy would do? Now, you can say what you want, or you can beat where you want to beat. It's just awful to do that. Now, as your governor, if I could fast forward a little bit, as your governor, my job is to do this. My job is to try to protect the people, to try to cut waste, to try to grow employment, to try to do all the things that are happening right in front of you. And we don't need to go into all that right now. But this state has had a miraculous turnaround. Now, that's my job. But I also mentioned protect us against waste. Protect us against something that we know is not right. Now, here's exactly what happened. Our people brought to me that we had a change order that was going through on the Horn Group that we felt like was under contract for $900,000 and $800,000. A change order had been requested for $17 million. $17 million. And I said, what in the world are we talking about here? Because I had already heard rumbles in the jungle that the people from inside and outside were doing things that where progress had been slowed. So I said at that time, we got to get to the dead level bottom of this. And getting to the dead level bottom of it, we quickly found out that purchasing did not approve this change order. And it was signed, and it was signed in a way that was not approved. It was signed by Josh Gerald. I instructed my people to immediately call in an ex-federal prosecutor, Mike Carey, and have him communicate directly with the legislative oversight people and the U.S. prosecutor and turn over every rock to find every single thing that's wrong. That's what I did. That's my job. Now, in doing so, all of a sudden, what you really truly find is just this. And it doesn't matter if the problem is internal or external. It's my job to find the problems and then fix them. And so, in doing so, what we find is the program had been slowed to a nothing. You know, now. So, the pause, in essence, not only did it save us $17 million that's going to turn into $9 and save us a balance of $8. Now, we're probably going to take out of the original contract 3 things that we, and this maybe Bray Carey can explain in the absence of Brian Abraham, but 3 things that we felt were very, very minuscule things that could have amounted to as much as $1 million. But we're going to change that contract from 17 to 9 or 17 to 10. And that's real dollars that can go to flood victims, and that's me doing my job. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to say the pause, if you call it a pause, which really and truly wasn't even a pause. We're going to show you that these people will tell you that that pause basically created things to start happening. They didn't create negatives, they created positives. And lastly, you're going to see the uncovering basically of internal and external problems that we're going to fix. And we're going to fix it right here with these very people. You know, the fix needs to come from this. There needs to be people replaced at Commerce. There needs to be a changing of the amounts from the Horn billing, and there needs to be a replacing of one of the Horn people with a different person that would come in and would administer there. If we move off of Horn, we slow the process down with HUD, and we don't want to do that. But basically, you're going to see external issues that we've uncovered and internal issues that we've uncovered. The internal issue, if it would be just this. there could very well be multiple people that we need to address and realign, if not replace. Now, in doing so, under Commerce, General Hoyer, I have asked him to fill in and take over all of the flood relief duties effective today. Now, and General Hoyer, along with these great people that are right here, along with our Commerce Department, and along with the realignment for the people of Horn, will take over today. Now, if we had not done that, and we've gone out and tried to realign our people of Commerce and look for somebody else, there'd be further delays. Now, I think that I can tell you the guy that waded the mud. The guy that waded the mud, and to be perfectly honest, there's been some mud cast at the guy, but the guy that waded the mud, the guy that opened his place, the guy that had his business completely destroyed, and the guy that's still fighting with his insurance companies that's trying to do just what's right, the guy that delivered meals, the guy that started Neighbors Loving Neighbors and raised more private money than any other organization within our state, and every single dime, Habibi Andre was employed by me. And not only her, but multiple people employed by me that ran Neighbors Loving Neighbors. I paid them, I gave, and we gave every cent to the flood victims. Now, again, we can beat and we can report whatever we want to report, but I've done my job. I've saved you money. I've rekindled the situation. I have absolutely now uncovered things that we're going to fix. I've done what I'm supposed to do. And I'll promise you this, no living human could have done more or cares more about those flood victims than me. So you're treading on really tough turf with me when you tread negatively about me and the flood victims, because I care. They have been through hell and back, and that's all there is to it. Those poor people have been through teetotal hell and back. And so I'd like this. I'd like our people, you let our people talk, they'll all talk, and then you can ask any of us any questions that you choose to ask, and we'll try as best we possibly can to answer them. And we can start, Jim, you start, talk.
I think I'm letting
Jim, or we'll start over here. General.
So the governor, as he said, has asked me to take responsibility, and the direction is pretty clear. And I've been with him in a couple of flood circumstances now, and I know what his mandate is. And the bottom line is, he told me to make sure that we use the assets of the Guard and the state government and the contract support, pull it all together. Number one priority, identify how many people out there still have housing needs from the 2016 flood, and get the process moving faster to address those needs. Now, I will tell you that under the process that we've used with the VOAD system, there have been 1,506 families who have signed off that they have recovered. But all that still doesn't matter until we get the last family signed off. And that's the mandate that the governor has given me, to make sure that we work with all the assets within state government, all the great volunteer groups, and everybody to make sure that we get that addressed. Once we get that, then we can move on to other forms of recovery that he's directed us to look at, related to economic development, infrastructure, and other areas. But again, I will tell you that I spent last night with him. He looked me in the eye. I understand the mandate. It's to take care and make sure we identify the total number of families that still need support for 2016 and figure out how we get those families taken care of. So that'll be my charge, and I owe him and the senior staff and everybody else, as soon as we lock that number down, I will get that number to the governor. And in the meantime, that doesn't mean anything stopped. We have houses in progress. We have a lot of great groups, and I see people that I've worked with over the past 2 years that are making stuff happen. And there are work crews coming in this summer from some of those groups. Now what we've got to do is match that up with the rest of this piece and get that total number of people taken care of. But again, I can't reinforce enough. I mean, I got the direct look from him, and I know what he wants done, and I'll work along with the members of the Guard, everybody in here, all the groups, and we'll drive forward and get this fixed.
So to tell you how this team kind of came together, right after the flood happened, the state applied for federal assistance from FEMA. Almost in record time, the president granted that request. Since that time, over $42 million for individual assistance and households has been provided by FEMA and coordinated through the West Virginia VOAG groups. In 2014, when we rewrote the State Emergency Operation Plan, we tasked VOAD with the responsibility for helping with individual assistance and mass care. That was probably one of the smartest things that we've ever done as we developed the state EOP. It brought together a lot of non-governmental agencies, private entities, public entities together to help accomplish one goal, and that was to take care of the people of the state of West Virginia. They have filled tremendous gaps in building private bridges and helping people that weren't eligible for FEMA assistance. But the way this started with this flood, on July the 5th in 2016, General Hoyer and I went to White Sulphur Springs to look at flood damage down there, and we met with then Jim Justice at the Greenbrier to talk about the flood recovery then. At that meeting, he had brought together a lot of key players that helped raise a lot of the funds that helped provide that assistance to the individuals. And if it wasn't for his insight and his vision and his ability to bring these people together, we would have not been able to raise, and we never have been able to raise, the type of money that was raised to help victims in this state. But at that meeting, there were people like Bubba Watson and his wife Angie, WVU former coach Don Nealon and Bob Pruitt, Habibi sitting beside me, officials from White Sulphur Springs, and others. And they only asked the two of us one question, and that was, what can we do to help? And so we started looking at how we could raise the money and how that money could be coordinated and used in the best fashion to help the victims that were impacted by this flood. The golf tournament had been canceled, so all the resources that were going to be used to the golf tournament were put toward helping bring this effort to a fruition. And in the 12 years that I've been here, it has to be one of the best efforts I've ever seen at helping people that were not covered by FEMA assistance. But it's only been through that coordination with VOAD, Neighbors Loving Neighbors, the non-governmental agencies, that effort has happened. In several national meetings that I've attended, the FEMA Administrator, Brock Long, has hailed what West Virginia is doing as a model for the country and has recommended to others that they look at West Virginia of how to bring these public-private partnerships together to help the people of the state. So that's kind of how we got here. I had the privilege of going with the General and the former Governor to Washington to request the HUD money. We had to make some real quick decisions and assumptions as to how much money was needed and what the needs were. That was done, and you know, we received the funds, and now we're looking at how we implement them. But we all understand what our mission is, and that's to take care of the people of this state.
All right, good afternoon. My name's Habibi Mamone. I'm the Executive Tournament Director for the Greenbrier Classic. And I'm going to rewind a little bit prior to Governor Jim Justice being the governor, because I think it's very important for everyone in this room to know that not only did he open the doors of the Greenbrier, not only did we feed the flood survivors 3 meals a day, as well as feed the National Guard, and when they left, we gave them gift cards of $500 each to Walmart. This was all something that the governor did. This is Jim Justice who did this. Not only, I had the opportunity to get reimbursed by FEMA for the rooms and the food, and he wouldn't let me because of the goodness of his heart. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. We also allowed FEMA to set up offices there. The American Red Cross set up offices there. And again, I had a full-time job as the tournament director, and it shifted quickly to the recovery efforts to be able to have the opportunity to run Neighbors Loving Neighbors. Not only were we the largest funder in the state of West Virginia, but we were also leading the efforts, and we were able to create the state unmet needs. And I see some familiar faces here, which I'm so happy to see today because they're very familiar with what that process is. And it was the opportunity to bring the long-term recovery committees that were in the remote areas that didn't have the resources like Neighbors Loving Neighbors had. And it brought in all the other organizations like the United Way, the Mennonites, United Methodist, Lutheran, all the organizations that had funding bring together, and we collaborated. We worked closely with General Hoyer under his guidance, with Jimmy Jeanette of Homeland Security, with West Virginia VOAD, and was able to collaborate a partnership unbelievable, unknown to every other state. And in fact, I want to add that it's being used and modeled in Houston, Texas. So we were able to do this because of Jim Justice, not the governor, but Jim Justice. And I just wanted to make sure everyone was very aware of that. So for anyone to have said that it was stalled, the project wasn't stalled. In fact, it brought up highlights to what was happening in our state and what was happening with the process. We had our first house built by Thanksgiving right after the flood, just a few months. We have, Neighbors Loving Neighbors has participated. We have built, purchased mobile homes, repaired homes, bought cars, bought appliances, bought furniture for over 750 families. And this was all because of the relationships he had nationally. And I say nationally because we got donations from, my gosh, you know, Charles Barkley, Phil Mickelson, Bubba Watson, I mean, the list, Jerry West, the D'Antonis. I mean, I can go, and it's because of his relationships and his love and his passion for the flood survivors. And when he mentioned about bodies, looking for bodies, my staff was pulling the bodies out of the creek at the Greenbrier. So it's kind of disappointing to hear what I've been reading in the paper, because his passion is for the people of the state of West Virginia.
I'm Jenny Ganaway, and I'm the executive director of one of the best VOADs in the country. I think that the amount of work that the voluntary agencies has done over the past 2 years, we're going on 2 years this June, is phenomenal. When we look at over 1,500 homes that has been rebuilt or done major repairs to, and that's not including the families that only needed furniture to get back into their house. I think that when you look at what the voluntary agencies has been able to accomplish on donated dollars, which is over $28 million in services, that is great. And that says a lot for our state VOAD, and the collaboration that we have done within our state. I know a lot of people are very frustrated with how things have turned out with federal dollars that's came into our state. I'm frustrated. Our voluntary agencies are frustrated. But that frustration didn't start 2 months ago. Our frustration started last summer. It started when we were told hammers would be flying in August. They didn't. Then we were told it'd be going on in September. It didn't happen. October, it didn't happen. November. Here we are, June, after they did the Rise on the Road events in April of last year, and still very limited work has happened. So we feel that frustration. We know there's a lot of frustration out there, but we've been asked to be a part of the solution. We don't want to look backwards. We don't want to look back at the frustrations that everybody has had. But if we can be a part of a solution moving forward to get help to the families that we know still need help, families that we know are still sitting in hotels and we're paying the expense for them, families that are still living in unsanitary conditions, we want to be a part of that solution. But we do not want to be a part of a solution that's not going to move our state and these families forward. So I feel like with the voluntary agencies, and I see several of them sitting here looking at me, and I think their heads would nod, as long as it's a solution moving forward to get help to the families, we're on board with what the state wants to do, and we'll give General Hoyer our full support and do whatever it takes to get this moving. Thank you.
Let me just ask one question. Well, let me make a statement and a question, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. The statement would be this: without question, we know we're going to save millions of dollars by the so-called pause. The next question, the next statement is going to be, we know now that the problems where the problems were, and we're going to fix it, and fix it in a way where things move at light speed compared to how they were moving before. The question is this, for these people here, is there anybody here that thinks the pause slowed things down?
Nothing was happening. Nothing was happening, and that's the frustration. And I think Charleston Gazette did a great job at putting out there the letters that from the division saying how things were stalled because they couldn't get things moving. We've got cases that are being hung up in environmental, you know. So we know firsthand we can build houses, and we know how to build houses, and we've got the organizations here that know how to build the houses.
But here's our Homeland Security guy. If I were to say to Jimmy, was the pause helpful or unhelpful as far as expediency? What would you say?
By making sure that we're complying with all the grant terms for the HUD grants. There's $9 million in direct funding from HUD that'll go toward a $52 million drawdown from FEMA and an additional $7 to $8 million that we'll be able to use and match that will save the state an additional $17 million in state-needed dollars to match the federal dollars for that program. So if we're not following the guidelines and that funding gets pulled, then we've lost $17 million that would have to come out of the governor's contingency fund and then be reappropriated by the legislature.
Last thing I'll say. I will promise you from all these people that are here, I will promise you to my soul above from myself, if I thought that $1 could have been delivered to somebody yesterday and we held it up, there's no way on God's earth I'd have that happen. Now choose to ask whatever you choose. Yes, sir.
Governor, why would somebody who's in Clendenin or Oakview, they're 20 miles from the state capitol, and we've talked to them, they have a porta potty in their front yard that they're still using 2 years later, or they're using the bathroom in buckets. So why would those people have any faith at all in this program, which over the last 2 years for them has done nothing? I mean, because General Hoyer is going to take charge? And if that's the case, why wasn't he in charge from day one?
It's difficult for me to answer from the standpoint of Governor Tomlin put commerce in charge of flood relief. Commerce, and through commerce we had Horn that was heading up the flood relief. And these people took charge right on the front lines. And they did amazing, amazing work. Now, it's hard for me when I don't know about the person that's sitting, you know, in Clendenin with a porta potty in the front yard.
Didn't take it.
And if today, nothing would have been done, there would have been no pause, no nothing, where would we be right now? In all honesty, the person in Clendenin would be right there. None of us would probably be in this room, and none of us would really even hardly know, you know, of the shortcomings of the flood relief effort. None of us would really, if we told the truth, would probably even know of the outcries that are out there that are people that we should be taking care of. But as soon as we knew, we act. And that's what we did. That's exactly what we did. And that's what we'll do. Yes, sir.
Governor, last legislative session, your Commerce Department lobbied legislators to move this state resiliency office from DMAPS over to the Commerce Department. Now Woody Thrasher chairs that board, but you're putting General Hoyer back in there. For one, is Woody Thrasher going to keep his job? And two, I mean, how can you absolve the blame from that and blame it on the Tomlin administration if it happened?
Oh no, I'm not blaming the Tomlin administration at all. I'm saying that it was placed in Commerce by the Tomlin administration. You know, that's how.
Happened last year.
That's right. That's exactly right. And okay, go ahead.
So here's what happened, and I think it was 5 days after the flood. 5 days after the flood, General Hoyer, the governor, Keith Burdett, Secretary of Commerce, Jimmy, you know him? Yes. And were called to Washington by the congressional delegation because there was impending allocations of HUD money that the state of West Virginia had never received before for disaster recovery. It was expected, and when they went, they were asked, how much money do you need? They were told $400 million. That was their best guess. And you got to think about it in the context of everything that was going on 5 days out of that flood. It seemed for the areas that are affected that it was an Armageddon kind of thing. In addition, you had to make a decision of how much do you ask for in housing. Their perspective and the best perspective available at the time was you needed all of that in housing as opposed to dividing it up, which some states do and did, into housing, economic development, into infrastructure. They made that decision. They also, when they came back and they had to write an action plan for HUD, and remember, this is not FEMA money that we're talking about. This is HUD money that had not come to the state of West Virginia before in association with disaster relief. They made a decision based on their assessment that the best place to put that would be Commerce. When I say they, the Tomlin administration. And I'm not in any way being critical of that. And their rationale was because there were block development grants being given through HUD development grants being processed through the Commerce Department that had nothing to do with flood recovery, that since they were familiar with HUD, they were putting in their disaster relief money to be operated from there. They filed that as part, in 2016, they filed that as part of their action plan with HUD, which was the condition of getting the money. They had to have an action plan approved by HUD. And in addition, they entered into a contract with Horn so that they could help administer the money to federal regulations. That contract was negotiated and agreed to prior to December, or around December of 2016. It was, we discovered, not signed until March 31st of 2016, but it was dated December 17, sorry, March 31st, 17, and it was dated, I believe it was either the 11th or the 16th of 2016. And there's been no one that's able to explain the date difference between the effective date and the signing date. To get to your question, what it appears happened is that contract got lost in the transition shuffle. And I say lost, it was not, anybody was aware that they needed legislation to change that. When the legislature passed their Flood Resiliency or Flood Task Force Act in March of 2017, they then added the technical move of commerce. That's how it ended up in commerce in 2017. But it was placed there by the Tomlin administration. That legislation had to happen in order to get the HUD money.
And what about the second part of the question? Will Secretary Thrasher keep his current position?
Let me just say this, that without any question whatsoever, there needs to be realignment within the Commerce Department. There absolutely are shortcomings and pitfalls that have happened within commerce. No question. Now that we know what we know today. Also, there are pitfalls that have happened externally. And from that, we know we're going to save millions and millions of dollars from the pitfalls externally. In order to ensure that seamlessly we do not have further delays, that's why the general is being placed in charge today. If we don't watch out and we start trying to change horses in the middle of the stream with the external, with Horn, we're going to cause ourselves massive delays with HUD. If we don't watch out and we start trying to re-engineer this thing instantly without the general and these great people, you know, we're going to cause ourselves delays internally with commerce as well. There's no question whatsoever that commerce has dropped the ball. You know, there's no question whatsoever that we've dropped the ball externally. But the net of the whole thing is just this, is, you know, it would be easy to say if we had known. If we had known what we knew today, yeah, we would have probably moved much earlier. But thank God we know what we know today. Yes, sir.
I have two more questions. I don't know that I've really heard a diagnosis of what has happened with these long-term floods. Whether it is just a byproduct of bureaucracy being slow, or whether there were other things that came up, inertia or whatever the slope problem meant. Secondly, commerce is within your administration, you're describing just recently having learned of these problems. Shouldn't someone within the governor's office have been keeping tabs and say, where do we stand on this? What's coming along? Where are we going?
Well, excuse me. I mean, Brad, there's no question that people within the governor's office should be staying in touch and knowing what's going on, and we felt like we were. And the dialogue we felt like was progress and everything. Now, tell me again the first part of your question, because, oh, I know what it is. It's just this, is the HUD dollars, the truth is the HUD dollars did not arrive. We couldn't spend the HUD dollars. We could not have spent the HUD dollars until after February the 23rd. You know, so what was being told to people last summer, or Kenny, what was being told to the gentleman that was using a porta potty in his front yard last summer, and, you know, in all honesty, if I'd have known that the gentleman had a porta potty in his front yard, I would have taken care of it myself, you know, but nevertheless, what was being told to these people last summer is, we're going to be building houses tomorrow. we're going to be doing this and this tomorrow. And the reality is, there was no hope that it could be done tomorrow, last summer, because the monies didn't even come until this February. And HUD, historically, and Woody Thrasher said it at a meeting in, I don't know, White Sulphur Springs or whatever, someone said, well, how fast will this all get repaired, or how fast will this get done? And he said it will be years, because that is the process. The bureaucratic process, it will be years. Now, and so the net of the whole thing is just that, you know, is people were told stuff erroneously. I had no clue people were told stuff erroneously from either internal or internal or external. You know, but the net of the whole thing is, no matter what we would have done, we would not have had the HUD money until February, no matter what we'd have done. Yes, ma'am.
So is there anyone still within the Department of Commerce that will be working on RISE, or will it pretty much just be Horn reporting to General Hoyer?
I think we'll have to kind of feel our way there, you know, and General Hoyer will be working, you know, with the commerce people, but until we get the realignment in place, we want to move and get stuff going just as fast as we possibly can. These people believe there's people standing maybe in this room right here that can have houses started, stick homes being built in the next 3 days. When I just think about it, think about just this. We had, as far as from the standpoint of Horn, or from the standpoint of what happened beyond the personal donations of the people, as I understand it, has there been one stick home been built? None. None. These people took care of, through the monies we raised, 1,560 people. From the standpoint of Horn and HUD and everybody else, and Mary Jo and all the different people in commerce or whatever, none, zero, other than some mobile homes. These people believe with the general we can start building stick homes in 3 days. 3 days from today.
So do you anticipate using that $150 million from HUD pretty quickly to get these homes?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
In talking with people who've been dealing with RISE, they say they get on the phone with these agents who constantly change because of turnover in the program, that there's no sense of continuity. But they also said that they're dehumanized, that they're treated like criminals, that there's immediate suspicion on everything they say. So is RISE, are those Horn contractors that are handling the RISE calls that are coming in? Or are those state employees handling those calls to RISE that are coming in? And if they are handling people like that, how do we fix it? That doesn't seem a great way to go.
Listen, let me tell you, you know, Kenny, you know me as well as anybody in this room. If I have an employee and they could be terminated this very second if they have dehumanized or talked down to people, I myself would box up their stuff and run them out of the building. You know, if I could possibly do that in any way, if that's an employee of state government and I can run them out of this building, I would do it this very second. Now, if it's, I don't know if those are employees of ours or employees of FEMA or employees of RISE or HUD or...
Tuesday, whoever's answering the phone at RISE. So who's doing that?
That should be the Commerce Department.
Well, then that's just absolutely beyond unacceptable. And that will be taken care of immediately.
Kenny, I can't address that piece of it, but one of the things the governor's tasked to do is we have 2 separate case management systems. We have the VOAD case management system, which is our FEMA related system, and we have the RISE case management system. the first thing that we're going to do is pull those together under the VOAD structure, and that will allow us to determine how many families we still have that need assistance from the 2016 flood. And so all I can say is that I believe that we will address some of those challenges that have occurred for people by getting that into one system.
Hey, I would like to add something to what General Hoyer said about having one case management system. Because it is two separate grants, we would not be able to commingle grants, so it would still become two separate case management, but it would be ran along the lines of under one umbrella of the state VOAD. Therefore, we're not commingling, so I wanted to make sure that that was very clear, that it would be two separate grants, but under one umbrella so that they move forward in a rapid way.
And I just want to add the benefits of doing this. It's going to allow us, because with this money we have, we can only build houses. But that doesn't make the family complete. They still need other things, such as appliances, furniture. So by bringing these cases to state unmet needs, these other volunteer organizations can assist with that and fill that gap.
Go ahead.
When do you expect the Commerce realignment to be finished?
Well, is this afternoon fast enough? No. But I, you know, we're going to have to rely a little bit on the general. I've got my feelings about what I think should take place immediately, and the general knows those instructions. But we're going to depend on the general a little bit too. I will tell you just this is now that we have these people involved, instead of the people that were involved, you'll see light speed instead of a very, very slow process. Yes, sir.
In November 2017, the Department of Commerce put out a news release that said 1,100 families have been helped by RISE already. Is that an accurate number?
No.
So would you concede that there's a problem when your Department of Commerce, which is under your executive branch, is putting out information that is, at least now we know, entirely inaccurate?
I would say that that is exactly right. Let me tell you this, there's 26,000, not to make any excuse whatsoever, I think there's 26,000 employees in the state. I could be wrong with that number. Is that right, Mike? I think maybe it's 36,000, I don't know. But it's thousands of employees. And so therefore, just like any administration on anything, there could be people that make mistakes, and could be people that put stuff out and stuff falls through the cracks, but that is totally inaccurate. Totally inaccurate. Yes.
So at this point, are you anticipating in the future to move the RISE program entirely out of Commerce, or is it still in the best place because of the grant funding, maybe with some sort of new leadership?
If you're just asking my opinion is it was placed in Commerce by the Tomlin administration. I really believe that it is the best that it stay in Commerce because of all the grant funding, all the different things that need to happen there. But it sure as Dickens needs to be run a whole lot better than it's been run. Yes, sir.
Governor, you mentioned waste and keeping track of money, and Mr. Tibet's going to be involved in this program, and legislative auditors just came out and said we can't find $250,000 worth of flood trailers that FEMA gave us. So I mean, how close an eye are we going to be keeping on his department? I mean, you're going to be watching this. That's a significant amount of money that we just don't know where they are. So what safeguards are being put in place to make sure this $150 million just doesn't end up, well, we don't know where.
Kenny, the best answer I could possibly give you is just this: there are really good people. There are really, really good people that have tried in their own way, at least if you listen to them, they've tried to do what's right, and they've tried to keep up with and everything else. It doesn't matter that, I don't know if they're for real or not, but they sure think they are. And if they think that they're doing a good job and they're not, we discover and we move forward. And we absolutely need to watch every time. To just be as honest as a human being could be, if it had not been brought to my attention that we had a change order for $17 million, we would absolutely not be where we are today in trying to revamp and change, because there could still be things falling through the cracks. And you can be critical of that if you choose to be critical, but I am telling you, people you place in charge to do certain things, and people that are giving you feedback that things are happening the way they should, and no outcry had come directly that I know of to our office from the guy in Clendenin that has the porta potty in his front yard. No outcries coming, and people are acting like that they're doing their jobs when they're not. Then if the 17 million doesn't come right into our face, in a lot of ways we may still be doing just what we've been doing. See, and now, I knew all along how great this man and this man and this lady did. I knew that. But a lot of this was taken completely out of their hands. Am I not right? It was taken away from them and put into another bucket and said, this is how this has to be administered. Through this bucket, through a horn, and through a commerce department, and through a federal bucket. You see, our state has never received anything close to hundreds of millions of dollars of flood assistance. Nothing to, these people would all say, nothing to approach it. Nothing to even approach it. And so therefore, they go out in the wilderness and start telling people, we're going to start doing this next Thursday, and we're going to start doing this then, and then and everything. Lots of mistakes. Lots of mistakes. Yes, sir.
There are things that I would have loved to explain to the public over the last couple of weeks, including the $17 million and what was in question. I and some others in the media feel like we have struggled to have our questions recognized or answered. And beyond that, there are legislators who have expressed that same feeling. What would you like to do to improve the communications to the public through us?
Let me address that point blank and say just this. I apologize to you. To tell you the truth, I've been trying to fix this for months. Our communications department, we have added people. We've added people upon people. And we've tried to address and tried to fix it. And I'm not throwing our people under the bus, because you got great people, but we're not doing our job. We're just plain not doing our job. We need to have a communications lines with you that is much, much, much improved than what it's been. Brad, you wrote an article the other day that said Justice owes $4 million on the helicopter, situation and everything. And it looks like Justice is the bad guy, the worst guy in the world. Let me just tell you this. I don't know that we ever reported back to you. But just think about this for a second. We bought that helicopter in, years and years ago, 2008. Bought it brand new, paid $6.5 million for it. Now things were really, really tough. So what we did we paid cash for it. But then Jay basically refinanced that with the Royal Bank of Scotland. We had it months, and the whole tail boom on the helicopter cracked and literally could have killed me in a second. The entire tail boom on a brand spanking new helicopter broke. Now, I demanded that they give us a new helicopter. They took it and said, we're not doing that. It's just like if your car blows up and you've run it for 2 days, you want a new one. You think you've got a lemon. You want a new one, don't you? And everything. And the people say, no, we're just going to fix it, and you take it back. So it's set, and it's set, and it's set, and set. And then finally, we didn't have any recourse, but we had to take it back. So we took it back. And you know what happened? The tail boom almost flew off of it again. Now this is a very reputable, the top of the line helicopter people, and they've almost killed me 2 times. I said, I'm not taking it back. No way, no way. Helicopters keep their value like crazy. That helicopter should have sold for $5 or $6 million. By that time, we'd had the Royal Bank of Scotland paid down to $4 million. And that lemon ended up selling for $2 million. But we got a big time issue with that helicopter company. And that helicopter company has an issue with the Royal Bank of Scotland. But you don't know any of this. You don't know any of it. That's our fault.
Governor, following up on Brad's question, we've been calling for 3 weeks and leaving messages and emails with your communications people, with the Department of Commerce. But are you not getting the messages, or are you directing them not to call us back, or are they choosing? Where's the holdup here?
I don't know. Maybe, you know, I could tell you that I don't know if anybody's telling you not to call, telling them not to call you back. Listen, put all this on me. 100% of this on me.
Well, how do we fix it?
No, just hold on. I'm trying to fix it. I will have it fixed. I apologize for our lack of being able to communicate with you in a better way. Yes, sir.
To that end, would you go on record and say right now, because I'm sure a lot of us here would like to follow up on what's going to happen, that you can help facilitate an interview with Secretary Boyer or with Secretary Jeanette, and that the media will have access to these people to ask reasonable questions about the progress of flood recovery?
Absolutely. They're open to you full time. Absolutely.
And if there's a future pause of the program for any reason, would us and the public be notified? Because I think that's some of the frustration also.
You know, you've got to be aware of just this. Let's just say that something comes to me that looks terribly wasteful or maybe an impropriety, then I need to get to the bottom of it. The last thing in the world that I think I need to do is call up the press and say, you know, hey, look what I found here. Because it may be legit, it may be nothing. And what I tried to do to get to the bottom of it was just what I did. Called in a former federal prosecutor and told him to take every single thing to the federal prosecutor and to the legislative oversight people immediately. Immediately. You know, everything he uncovered. That's what I did.
Can you say at all what else he uncovered, or is that part of ongoing investigations?
I think I better let that go at that. Yes, sir.
One recurring problem that's come up is these environmental reviews on the houses. Are those going to have to be redone? I mean, if we start from square one?
Maybe. Tell them about it.
That's a legitimate concern. It's my concern as well. And I don't have the answer.
Jenny,
Jenny
you
can
can
probably add to it, but I mean, it's a legit concern with the current process, but the process is going to get fixed. I could say with certainty, we've built homes before. We've had to go through environmental reviews. We've had to go through the same process. I'm looking at 2 organizations we've worked with to build the homes, so I can't imagine it being even an issue.
Well, this is going off memory. You're quoting an email that obtained from this office, though. But there was a Greenbrier County emergency management worker who was hearing secondhand from a RISE client relaying information from RISE that 205 entire units had to be redone. Is that figure accurate? And I guess this has been answered to some degree, but why is this the spread of information from this ping pong game?
I don't think that
I'll
we...
have to look at that and get you an answer to that particular piece and to what is causing the delays in environmental approvals that may be delayed right now that some of the volunteer organizations may have particularly encountered, but you're going to have to give me a day or 2 to get to it, but I will get you an answer to what's going on.
Governor or General Boyer, or you may want to jump in. Is there some type of prioritization list for these people getting homes? Because you put out the news release last week that 6 people were moved into homes. We visited several of those homes. We know where they were. We visited with these people. And in some instances, it doesn't appear through talking to neighbors and hydrology reports and flooding and elevation that these homes received any water. One was a septic problem that they not only tore out the septic system, they put in a new house. And one was a leaky roof, where instead of fixing the roof, they just tore down the house and put a new house.
Kenny, goes back to the comment earlier. One of the things that we talked about, and the governor's directed that we're going to consolidate into one case management process. As Jenny mentioned, we have to fund it 2 different pots of money to stay appropriate within the federal guidelines. But by doing that, and we've already started the process, we're going to identify how many people impacted by the 2016 flood still have a housing requirement. Those will be prioritized to be taken care of. There is some leeway under the HUD dollars to allow other people who were not impacted, but were in the impacted counties to receive assistance as well, if that's how things are determined out. But
they were to the front of the class.
I can't answer that. I can just tell you what we're doing going forward. We're going to put the priority on taking care of the people that were impacted by the 2016 flood. Then we'll address other issues that may be available for available funding, or whether it should be appropriately put into infrastructure or economic development as the governor directs.
And Kenny, I can assure you that under the VOAD umbrella, if we are doing the case management for that program, we do prioritize and we make sure that the most vulnerable populations and the families living in terrible conditions are helped first.
How soon are people going to be able to start seeing all this action going on as far as the money's being spent to replace houses or whatever? Are we talking months, 3 months? I mean, how long do you feel it's going to take to?
I think, well, let me just say this. I think that now that we've exposed the problems and basically we've got an A-team put together, I think you'll see movement immediately. And I think you'll see that at speed like we have never seen before. I'd like to just add this too. In any disaster, whether it be Katrina or the terrible floods of Houston or whatever it may be, there's always going to be problems. But I can tell you just this, that I know the hearts, I know what these people can do. And some way along the way, we really lost our way. And we even lost our way to the point of just this, is, you know, Kenny, you're right. You know, we put out a press release that homes are on the way, homes are on the way. And you've got the guy down there in Clendenin that I promise you we'll see to that guy today, you know. But you've got the guy in Clendenin, and here's a home that's taken to somebody that's got a septic tank problem. You know, and we put out a press release like, look what we're doing. You know, that's inexcusable. That's all there is to it. That's just mismanagement and inexcusable. So you're going to see good stuff happen now. Yes, sir.
Why did you bring in Mike Carey to investigate instead of the Attorney General?
Well, we contacted the Attorney General, did we not, or did we?
Well, not the initial investigation.
But Mike went to the...
Oh, yeah. The Attorney General or the U.S. Attorney's attorney. He met with the U.S. Attorney for Southern West Virginia. Met with Mike Stewart.
Was that before Mike Carey was hired?
No, we hired Mike Carey to investigate, to find out if there was anything there.
Right, my question is, why wouldn't you bring in either the state attorney general or a U.S. attorney to investigate before going outside counsel? Is there any reason there?
believe the West Virginia Attorney General actually investigates crimes in our state. Not aware of it.
And the U.S. Attorney?
Well, we didn't know if there was a crime.
No, I mean, Jake, here's the thing. I know Mike Carey, and I know Mike Carey is a really fair and honest man. I didn't think that on day one, what we should do is run every time that we think something could be wrong directly to the U.S. federal prosecutor. I told, and not only that, since Mike Carey had been a former federal prosecutor, I felt like that his dialogue with the federal prosecutor would be the best course of action. I told my attorney, I instructed Brian Abraham, my counsel. We've left Brian out of this, but my counsel was involved immediately. I told my counsel to bring in Mike Carey, and from that, then they together go to the federal prosecutor and the legislative oversight people. I will promise you again, the very second that I find somebody that's trying to take something or do something that looks a little bit fishy, you know, I'm not going to put up with it. I mean, that's why you can look as far as you want to look to try to find something that Jim Justice is doing for Jim Justice. You're not going to find it. You're just not going to find it. Okay, everybody, give us a month. Give us a month and watch what happens. Thank you.